Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. A newly released report states Windsor is one of the most dangerous cities in the province to drive in. We have those details tonight, plus Conservative MPs tabled a motion to demand the federal government reveal full details of the Nexstar contract. That comes after news that 900 workers from South Korea would be temporarily relocating to Windsor. And Cirque du Soleil will be on local ice this weekend. I caught up with the production to see some of the best skaters in the world here in Windsor. Windsor is one of the most dangerous cities in the province for drivers. That's according to a newly released report from an insurance comparison website. Then add some poor weather like the conditions we saw today, and it certainly doesn't make roads any safer. CBC's TJ Deer joins us live tonight. TJ, just how bad are Windsor drivers based on this report?
Well, Meg, of the 3,200 Windsor drivers that were used as part of this report, about 12% of them have an accident on their record. That means Windsor ranks 5th in the province when it comes to motorists who have gotten into an accident and 8th when it comes to overall road safety. Now, the report was created by My Choice, which is an insurance comparison website. Now, My Choice actually ranked Windsor ahead of other cities such as Brantford. My Choice ranked Brantford as the city that has the worst road conditions in the province. I hit the streets earlier today to see how Windsorites reacted to this city's ranking.
Honestly, it's not hard to believe, as there's been times that I've been walking across the street, impatient drivers not willing to wait for us pedestrians to finish crossing, and I'm not gonna lie, in 3 years, I've probably been almost hit just from crossing in my right, maybe about 50, 60 times.
We see a lot of people going through red lights at the end of light changes here. Other than that, I wouldn't say there's a big difference between other places I've driven in the province. Not too much traffic, so there's not really any other reasons. I know there is some dangerous intersections that the city's worked on in the past, on Dougal and a few other places, so perhaps that's part of the reason.
Now, all this comes as Windsor is experiencing its first snowfall of the season. The snow has actually been falling since late last night, and it's been falling pretty much all day. Environment Canada actually says the snow is expected to continue to fall until the wee hours of tomorrow morning. Now, the city of Windsor is reminding drivers to adjust their speed when they hit the road as the weather gets colder, especially with the potential for the formation of black ice on the road. The city has already put road salt on some streets to make sure no ice forms as the snow falls and the temperature drops. Meg?
Well, thanks so much for that, TJ. That's a CBC's TJ Deer reporting live. Political sparring continues over the news that up to 900 South Koreans will be coming to Windsor to help set up the EV battery plant. Today, Conservative MPs on a federal committee tabled a motion demanding the Liberal government reveal full details of its contract with Nexstar Energy. Windsor Tecumseh's MP defended the deal but disagreed with the motion.
The facts: 2,500 full-time Canadian local workers building battery plants for generations. And yes, we are partnering with our Korean partners at LG to install the machinery and the equipment.
The Conservative MP's motion would bring the contract documents to the House of Commons. Nexstar Energy is a partnership between Stellantis and Korea-based LG Energy Solution. The EV battery plant is benefiting from $15 billion in tax breaks. The company says the South Korean workers will be used temporarily and are specialized staff to set up the equipment.
If the government is so proud of what they've done, if they're so sure that this is a good deal for Canadians, they're certainly not acting like it. I mean, they're acting like they're embarrassed of this. They're acting like they're afraid of what's going to come to light.
The truth of the matter is, the reason why we're here, the success of electric vehicles and the success of EV battery plants is a direct threat to Conservatives. A direct threat. They don't believe in climate change. Conservatives don't believe in electric vehicles. They never supported. From day one, they never supported the Stellantis battery plant.
Sorry, Mr. Kuzmierczuk.
The committee is expected to meet again at 6:30 p.m. tonight to vote on the motion. Well, this is a live look of a massive freighter that has run aground in the Detroit River. It's been there since around 7:30 this morning between downtown Detroit and Belle Isle. Tugboats have been trying to free the ship throughout the day. Here's what it looked like earlier. The freighter is carrying around 21,000 tons of wheat destined for Italy. The U.S. Coast Guard is leading the operation to set the freighter free. They say there's no pollution, damage, or injuries. Windsor's harbor master says it can take hours to get a plan approved by all parties to free the ship. The freighter is not blocking other commercial shipping traffic. Well, there's a new conference at the University of Windsor that will raise awareness when it comes to gender-based violence. And there's a deeply personal connection to this for Fartumo Kuso, the woman hosting it. Her daughter, Sahara Boulay, was found in a field earlier this year. Right now, Boulay's estranged partner is awaiting trial on a charge of first-degree murder. This speakers conference at the university is in her daughter's name. It's also part of the annual United Nations 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence hosted by the university. Kuso sat down with Windsor Morning host Amy Dodge to talk more about Friday's event.
I think this is the first step because after my daughter's loss, I realized that all the things that I didn't have, all the support, the contact that I didn't have, and all the other families facing that, because this violence continues to take women's lives all the time. So I'm thinking this would be to start the dialogue, to get the community aware of situation we have and bring in together experts in the field, people who did research, people who deal with it in the legal side of things, and the people who work with a woman either surviving or escaping gender-based violence. So it's kind of cross-sectional of to speak to the voices that have been silenced and also show gender-based violence knows no class or identity or ethnicity or economic standing.
The hashtag I Am Sahara Boulay conference is starting this Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can attend online or in person at the CAW Student Center on the University of Windsor campus. Food insecurity is a growing problem across the country. A report released today in Ontario is painting a dim picture of the current need. It says last year marked a 40% jump in the number of people who rely on them. CBC's Jamie Strachan has this report.
In this bustling Toronto food bank, the pace is dizzying. Volunteers scurry to pack and process food for clients who are desperate.
If it wasn't for the food bank, I'm telling you, there would be a lot of people starving, including myself, because we really need it.
Everyone's story of why they are here is different, yet very much the same. They don't have enough to cover life's basics.
All that money goes to the rent and the bills. By the time I finish pay the bills, I have nothing. Sometimes not even enough to buy a cup of tea.
With 3 children to feed, Pon works as a cleaner. But at the end of the day, skyrocketing food prices have made it impossible to fill her family's fridge.
You go to the groceries, you pick up a few items, and they're telling you $200. And you're looking at the food on the counter, and I'm asking them, what am I paying $200 for? It doesn't even last a month. That's like a week.
Ever since COVID, visits to food banks have surged. It seems every time the numbers are examined, usage continues to grow exponentially. A new report shows a sobering situation in Ontario. 60% more users than before COVID, a 38% increase from last year. The biggest shift? The huge increase in the number of users who are working.
That old kind of saying of going to school and getting a job sets you up for life is no longer applicable. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to afford your most basic necessities.
People who have been working in food banks for years say there is a desperation never seen before. More people admitting they can't make it on their own.
I feel that we're in a state of emergency at this point, and something has to be done to take care of this, because people cannot continue to deal with this. Folks are dealing with a lot. It's also impacting their mental health.
Pon says for those desperately fighting to survive, times are bleak and the need greater than ever.
If you're not mentally and physically strong now, you cannot make it out there. You can't.
Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Questions are being posed about how effective new federal mortgage guidelines will be at keeping Canadians in their homes. The federal government unveiled the rules last week, and some say it might not do much to offset punishing interest rates. JP Tasker has the story.
Bikram Deep Singh has a mortgage renewal looming on his Vancouver area townhome.
Right now, I'm looking at the renewal rates somewhere between 6 and 6.5%. So that's going to be like bringing my payments 30 to 40% up. So that's going to be a significant chunk of money that I'll be spending every month.
Singh was already just trying to keep his head above water.
I'm the sole income earner in my family, so that definitely puts some stress.
About 2.2 million mortgages are up for renewal in the next 2 years, according to federal data. Those households will be paying a lot more with record low rates in the rearview mirror. Kevin Larkin doesn't think he can keep his Surrey, BC home on a teacher's salary.
You know, I've just been running the numbers, and I don't see how I'm going to be able to renew and afford this.
Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland says Ottawa is doing what it can to avoid a spike in foreclosures.
I want Canadians to get through this. I want Canadians to be able to afford their mortgages and keep their homes.
That's where the government's new mortgage charter comes in. A series of guidelines for banks, including allowing temporary extensions of amortization periods so people can take longer to pay, and exempting homeowners from a stress test when switching lenders at renewal.
Most banks were doing many of these things.
This real estate watcher says the charter won't change much. People are already offloading properties they can't afford, and it could get worse.
If rates stay in the 6s for another 12 months, we're going to have potentially and very likely some downward pressure on prices. I mean, something's going to break.
The good news is inflation seems to have stabilized. The bad news, interest rates might not go down as fast as they went up. The governor of the Bank of Canada has warned people should prepare to live with higher rates for longer. JP Tasker, CBC News, Ottawa.
It's the season of giving, but with prices rising, being generous financially may be tough. The Essex Region Conservation Authority is trying to help with that by offering gift ideas that are kind on your wallet and also the environment.
It's been an annual tradition for about a decade, and each year we harvest natural materials from the forest and farm near the homestead, as well as from some of our volunteers' backyards. And when we are finished decorating, we always have a bit of greens left over. So we thought a great way to reuse those greens is to have a wreath making workshop for the public. It's a bit of knowledge sharing, but also in the spirit of conservation and using all those materials that we collected. I think there's different reasons that people might come to a workshop like this, and one of them is, the experience, right? They're looking to try something new. We know a lot about experiential tourism now. People want to do things on the weekend, right? So if you're going to spend that much money on a wreath anyway, you get the added experience if you come and do it here. So for a lot of people, it's the doing that's so much fun. People who've made things by hand before, there's that little element of love. So some people today said, I'm gifting this, right? It's going to go on my mom's front door or somewhere else, right? So when you put your heart into something, it makes it extra special too. And as I mentioned, gifts that are handmade are filled with love and from the heart are always more appreciated, I think. Again, we've gathered a lot of the materials from here, from our forest and farms. Some things could be gathered from your yard at home. We had some beautiful lavender and sage in the garden that people put into their wreaths today. So I don't think you have to spend a lot of money to really create beautiful memories for yourself. We're really big on sustainability, reduce, reuse, recycle. We're very careful not to over-harvest and to use all that we collect. And we try to stay away from plastics and things that we know will be in our environment long after we're gone. So I think this kind of workshop is great that way because those materials and the wreath form can be used again and again.
Cirque du Soleil's very first acrobatic experience on ice is coming to Windsor. The show will be at the WFCU Centre from November 30th to December 3rd. The performance will completely transform the ice rink. Instead of a scoreboard, a trapeze will hang and puck handling replaced with juggling. Some of the figure skating moves are so dangerous they're illegal in competition. I caught up with some of the performers rehearsing to see if I have what it takes.
Hey, Mary, I heard you got a big show coming up, and I'm here for my training lesson. In those? In these. You want to try to spin? Okay. Let's try it. So you're going to pump around and then the right arm is gonna come meet the left arm, and then you're gonna pull in. I'm here at the WFCU Center with Mary Siegel. She is one of the figure skaters performing in Cirque du Soleil Crystal. Tell us a little bit about this show.
So yeah, it's definitely a Cirque du Soleil show on ice. So it's completely different than any other show you'll see that Cirque du Soleil actually has out there. I believe the ice really adds a whole new dynamic, a different perspective, a lot of speed. The actual show is based off of a girl who is really just searching for her identity. It's a journey of self-discovery. She ends up getting really frustrated with her life, feels like she doesn't fit in. She runs away from home and actually finds herself falling through the ice.
So I've never seen the hockey rink look like this. Can you kind of tell us what we're standing in the middle of?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely come in and take over. There's 100 people on our tour, 44 artists, and the rest are management technicians. So what you see around us is what we bring with us. I believe it's 19 trucks full of equipment and set pieces. So everything you see here is used throughout the show when it comes to the trees, the ramps, the living room set. Yeah, it's everything that we own that we have to actually put together when we get here. So it is a full, large production.
You ever fall?
Of course. Of course, the ice is slippery, you know,
Okay.
and we have toe picks as well.
Okay, good. That's, as the professionals falling, then I guess I can do some falling. Beep. And yeah, there it is. Beautiful.
So when am I getting hired?
Maybe as one of the hockey skaters, though.
Perfect.
How do you feel about the ramp? You want to do the ramp? No, I can't show you the ramp.
I'm just gonna give you that one. Yeah.
We got a real taste of winter today. Temperatures below zero and with a little bit of snow. We have your weather forecast coming up after the break. Colette, I broke a very important family rule today.
You did?
Yeah.
What?
This might be kind of controversial. My family doesn't really celebrate Christmas until December 1st. I don't know, sounds a little grinchy, but I don't personally feel shorter holiday makes it more special in a way. Anyways, the weather today was so holiday-like. I've been listening to carols all day.
Oh, okay. I think that you're probably going to be forgiven or no penalty for breaking that rule. Lots of folks clearly start earlier than December 1, and actually I'm one of them. So
yeah, I was going to say, are you in the full swing of Christmas? Are you in the full swing of Christmas?
Well, I'm getting there. Didn't get the tree up. It was on the list for this past weekend, but I definitely started stuff, have been getting going that way. So yeah, and I do think that makes it kind of feel like when you have wintry weather, a little more festive, right? All right, well, let's just go with that. As that cold air is really sunk in here over the Great Lakes region, just looking at the contours in the blue here with the coloration. And then as we go towards Wednesday, you see what happens? Okay, a little bit of moderation. Still going to be a situation with temperatures below seasonal in most cases. However, that does change as we get towards Thursday and Friday, and we get a much better rebound. And then some of that colder air, although it expands, it pushes back towards the north. So along with the cold air, okay, that's one of the ingredients here. And then we've got these stronger winds pushing that colder air across the relatively warmer waters of the Great Lakes, and that's where you get into areas if you are going to be traveling tonight or tomorrow. Yes, I know there's some activity going on here, but these are the areas where there can be whiteout conditions, and some, it's highly localized, I know, but some areas will be over 25 centimeters, maybe even 35 centimeters by the time it's done. So you go from great driving conditions, and then all of a sudden you're into a whiteout. So it doesn't stretch back as far as Sarnia or certainly towards Chatham, Kent, or Windsor, but you can see some of that light snow here, and yes, even some of this, although it's not terribly well organized yet, coming across the fetches, meaning the winds are kind of strong enough in terms of the fetch across the lake that even over Lake Michigan, some of those trails are making their way into southwestern Ontario. So the current temperatures, as they've been falling through the day, sitting at -3. Then we factor in the sustained winds. Those are the winds we use to get the wind chill, but knowing that there are also some stronger wind gusts out there. Winds will gust to 50 kilometers an hour or even beyond that. So our wind chill based on the sustained winds right now, yeah, it feels like -11. That's definitely kind of a holiday feeling in terms of the temperature and the conditions. Ahead to tomorrow, yeah, we should break into an area of sun with just a few clouds as those squalls are really pushing further north or dropping off to the south. But know that Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, I do anticipate that we'll likely see some flurries returning. Cool overnight lows. These are just the temperatures, not the wind chill of -7. And tomorrow's daytime high not even making it to freezing. But remember, I said things would rebound. There it is, Meg, as we get towards Thursday.
Well, I'm looking forward to a little bit of a rebound here. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
Yes, you're welcome.
The former house of Charles Dickens is getting dressed up for the holidays. We have more on that coming up. Qatar's foreign ministry says Israel and Hamas have agreed to extend the truce in Gaza by 2 more days. The announcement comes on the final day of the original 4-day pause in fighting. Washington welcomed the extension.
In order to extend the pause, Hamas has committed to releasing another 20 women and children over the next 2 days. We would, of course, hope to see the pause extended further, and that will depend upon Hamas continuing to release hostages.
The aim is to free more Israeli hostages and Palestinians being held in Israel and to allow more aid into Gaza. Meantime, Israel says 11 more hostages have been freed today under the original deal. And Hamas said earlier it had received a list of 33 Palestinians to be set free from Israeli jails. A 4th person has died after this weekend's shooting in Winnipeg. Police spoke to reporters today, but so far there are no arrests and no hint of suspects.
At this point, we will focus on trying to identify this person. Obviously, they've gone to ground right now, but we'll try to take them into custody as soon as we can.
5 people were shot in a rooming housing unit. The one survivor is in critical condition. Police concede crime is a problem in the area. Manitoba's premier has weighed in, telling whoever was responsible that they don't own the streets. Police again today asked for the public's help in the investigation. Well, a trip back to a Christmas past took shape in London today at 48 Doughty Street, the former home of Charles Dickens, author of A Christmas Carol.
Dickens loved to celebrate Christmas. We know from his daughter that he took a week off. He enjoyed the celebrations, the fun, the games, carving meat. He was wonderful at carving turkeys.
The halls of the Charles Dickens Museum get decked out every Christmas. Today opened this year's season. In the basement is a copper or boiler reminiscent of the one that steamed the Cratchit family's Christmas pudding. In the office, a miniature portrait of Dickens found just 6 years ago. The goal is to recreate the time Dickens lived there, down to some of the nitty-gritty details. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And don't forget to watch The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app, CBC TV, and streaming on CBC Gem and CBC Explore. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.